Hello, and welcome to Grimming It Up. I'm Grim Mama Christine, and here we tell stories about the strange, unusual, and sometimes true crime. In our latest episode, we're going to talk about the Destiny Ring. Is it cursed? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see after we explore and dig through the archives to see what we can find out. It's believed that the Destiny Ring is responsible for 5 deaths, y'all. 5, maybe even more. Do you believe that items can be cursed? What if I tell you the Destiny Ring is believed to be responsible for at least 5 deaths? I'll tell you the story of the Destiny Ring, and then I'll let you decide. It's believed that Italian actor Rudolph Valentino, the Latin lover, was the ring's first victim. So we'll start with his story. Rudolph Valentino was born May 6th in 1895. His actual birth name was Rudolfo Pietro Filiberto Rudolfiello di Valentina di Antigella. Pretty sure I slaughtered that. And for anybody who is familiar with Italian, I apologize immensely. But nonetheless, that is a really long name. It's impossible for me to say quickly because it's all over the place with my tongue. I just can't imagine. But anyway, he grew up in Castellina, Italy. His father was an army officer who later became a veterinarian. His father died of malaria in 1906, when Valentino was only 11 years old. Valentino attended a military school, but sadly, he was rejected from the Italian army service. In 1912, at the age of 17, Valentino went to Paris in search of employment. He couldn't find work, so he returned briefly to Italy, staying only until he had saved enough money to travel to New York City in 1913. After moving to the United States, in New York City, through Ellis Island on December 23, 1913, a nearly penniless Valentino managed to work at many menial jobs. However, he was often fired and found himself homeless and begging for food. Valentino's East Coast scandal, y'all. He eventually became a nightclub dancer and began a romance with the Chilean heiress Bianca del Soles. The couple shinged how she would leave her husband, and Valentino even testified for Bianca in her divorce trial. Bianca had a temper, which became evident to everyone when she shot and killed her ex-husband, John DeSalis. Valentino was trying to distance himself from the scandal, so he moved west. And at this point, Valentino decided it was time for him to move on, and he found a new job where he partnered with the vaudeville performer Bonnie Glass and joined a national touring production. After the production shut down in Utah, young Valentino went to San Francisco, where he became a dance instructor. He had dreams and knew he wanted to become an actor in silent films. The first talking movie wouldn't be made until 1927. His determination led him to Hollywood, but his acting career wasn't an immediate hit. Often he only managed to get small parts or the role of a bad guy. The Latin lover gets married. In 1919, he married actress Jean Aker, and according to some accounts, Jean locked Valentino out of their hotel room on their wedding night. Clearly, their marriage wasn't meant to last, and they divorced in 1921. Valentino had read the novel The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Vincent Blasco Ibanez and wanted to be part of the film version. He discovered that Metro Studios had the film rights, and he went to the studio intending to demand a part in the movie. Destiny was finally shining upon him, as the studio was actually looking for him. The screenwriter, June Mathis, had seen Valentino's movie, The Eyes of Youth, from 1919. June wanted him to play the part of Giulio Desineres, one of the lead roles in The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Valentino was denied his rise to fame. The movie was a blockbuster, but Metro Studios wouldn't give Valentino another chance at a lead role. Instead, they only allowed him to star in a B movie called Uncharted Seas, and that movie was a flop, and the last movie Valentino did with Metro Studios. This gave Valentino an opportunity to go to one of Metro Studios' rivals, Famous Players Lasky, and once again, destiny was smiling upon him. He was cast in the lead role of Sheikh Amon Ben Hussein in The Sheik. Finally, he broke out and rose to stardom and fame. His dream had become a reality. His 36th movie. In this role, Valentino redefined chic to mean irresistibly attractive or a heartthrob. He embodied his name, the Latin lover. The Destiny Ring finds Valentino. In 1920, Valentino was at a high point in his now successful career when he spotted a peculiar ring. Some sources say it was in a pawn shop, others in a jeweler's shop in San Francisco. All agree the shop proprietor warned him the ring was jinxed when he inquired about purchasing it. Also, the proprietor stated that the ring's name was the Destiny Ring. It's rather a simple-looking gold band with a large oval-shaped tiger's eye gem surrounded by a braided golden cord. Despite the shop owner's warning, Valentino bought it and wore it to his next movie, The Young Raja. That movie flopped, and Valentino didn't wear the ring again for 2 years. Valentino had begun a relationship with a costume designer named Natasha Rabova while he was filming in Uncharted Seas, and the couple later married in 1922. Valentino was arrested shortly after his second marriage. Only a few days after marrying Romova, Valentino was arrested, and I can hear y'all asking, for what? Bigamy, y'all. For what? Turns out, at that time, California had a law that after a couple's divorce, they each had to wait a full year before they could remarry. Since it hadn't been quite a full year since Valentino had divorced Jean Aker, he was a bigamist. After Valentino was released on bail, the couple had to stay in separate apartments for another full year before they were able to remarry in 1923. And I would love to tell you that the couple lived happily ever after, but they didn't. Their marriage was extremely dysfunctional and ended in 1925 in divorce. Valentino fought public perceptions. Valentino was popular in movies, but the public and media perceptions of him were horrible. He did bring some of this on himself with his 1922 strike against Famous Players, his spoiled attitudes, and his effeminate nature that contrasted with American masculinity at the time. Valentino challenged a newspaper writer to a fight after he was called a pink powder puff in an editorial. He responded with, "You slur my Latin ancestry, you ridicule upon my Italian name, you cast doubt upon my manhood." The writer never answered back. Frank O'Neill, another newspaper's boxing correspondent, agreed to fight in the original writer's place. Maybe Frank thought this would be an easy publicity stunt. I'm really not sure. But I can tell y'all, I bet he regretted it after. Turns out, Valentino would win that boxing match. And I'm positive that it had something to do with Valentino's trainer being Jack Dempsey, the heavyweight champion at the time. One thing I want to touch on briefly. Valentino struggled in his acting career for several reasons. But one was his immigrant status. The prejudices were evident today in some of his roles for his being too foreign. Y'all, he was a silent film actor. My head bows in shame. Valentino stood up to the prejudices for himself and other actors and other nationalities. So, go you, Valentino. And another fun thing about Valentino is he loved his dogs. he had 2 dogs that he adores. Some sources say he had whole routines and rituals about their care, and I don't want to go too much down that rabbit hole, though, since it doesn't help our story. But their names? I love their names. His Irish wolfhound was Senator Petragon, and his Doberman was Kabar, like the knife. Remember that last one, though. It's going to come up a little bit later. In the blog post, you'll be able to see a lot of pictures of Valentino, his wives, his dogs, and some of his stills from some of the movies that he played in. I think he was quite handsome, so I'm not sure that him being foreign had anything to do with anything. Just must have been a stereotype thing that was going on at the time that, thank goodness, we had moved past in so many ways. But the Destiny Ring is about to take its first victim. While on a promotional tour for the movie, The Son of the Sheik, Valentino had been wearing the Destiny Ring. He collapsed suddenly at the Hotel Ambassador in New York City. Valentino was transported to the hospital and found to be suffering from a ruptured appendix and perforated ulcers. He was quickly taken into surgery on August 15, 1926, but he developed complications. The doctors didn't tell him his periodontitis infection and pleurisy in his left lung would be terminal. Perhaps they thought that by not telling him of his grim prognosis, they were sparing him. Believing he would recover, he asked the doctors if he was a pink puff to endure what he was going through. His last words to his doctors were, "Don't worry, Chief, I'll be alright." And after that, Valentino slipped into a coma and passed away at the age of 31 on August 23rd. Now the Destiny Ring kind of becomes a hot potato. It seems Valentino had been dating a new starlet, Pola Najiri. It may or may not have been a real relationship. It's likely that they were trying to generate more mutual publicity. Nonetheless, after Valentino's passing, she picked his Destiny Ring as a memento to remember Valentino by. And Pola's time with the Destiny Ring? Well, first, let's see who she was. She was a Slavic singer and silent film actress born in Poland on January 3rd in 1897. She later appeared in talking films in both the United States and Europe. Pola fell ill very shortly after she acquired the Destiny Ring, and she suffered a miscarriage. And then she was also found to be suffering from gallstones. She recovered her health, but never went back to silent films. Next, she discovered that her husband had gambled away her silent film fortune on risky ventures, which led to their divorce. She gave the Destiny Ring to the American singer-songwriter Russ Columbo. Some sources say that when she gave the ring to Columbo, she said, "From one Valentino to another." Pola's luck turned around, and she successfully resumed her acting and singing career. She became a United States citizen and eventually retired to San Antonio, Texas. And she passed away on August 1st of 1987 at the age of 90. Wow, she had a long life. Okay, so now let's talk about Russ Columbo's time with the Destiny Ring. It was short, but nonetheless. Russ Columbo was born on January 14th of 1908 in Camden, New Jersey. He was a composer and acted in movies like The Texan in 1930 and Wake Up and Dream in 1934. His death is so strange it might be fit for a Final Destination movie. He was reported to have been visiting the studio of a photographer friend, Lansing Brown Jr., and there was a heated argument between the two. Brown struck a match against the wooden butt of a prop French dueling pistol. The flame ignited the charge in the pistol. The ball was fired, and it ricocheted off of a table and hit Columbo just above his left eye. He died less than 6 hours later on September 2nd in 1934 in Los Angeles, California. See? Doesn't it fit like a Final Destination? It just sounds like too weird to be true, right? After inheriting all of Russ's possessions, one of his cousins gave the Destiny Ring to Russ's best friend, Joe Casino. Anyway, Joe Casino was aware of the curse on the ring. He thought that keeping it in a glass case would prevent anything untoward from happening to him. It was a solid plan and seemed to have been working. After years of keeping the destiny ring in a case, he had convinced himself there was no real curse. 3 guesses what he did next. Yeah, he took it out and decided to wear it. And a week later, tragedy struck. Full disclosure, there are 2 different versions of what happened next, neither of which I was able to verify through multiple sources, so each one I only had like one source of the version. Let's call this next part lore. Here goes. Joe was either hit by a truck, or he was in a car that was hit by a truck, and he died at the scene of the accident. I mean, wow. Next, the Destiny Ring moves on to Del Cassiano. Del Cassiano inherited all of his brother Joe's possessions, including the ring. Del had the good sense to store it in a safe in his home. After some time, though, Del's home was broken into, and he was robbed. The burglar was named James Willis, and this burglar had no idea that the alarm had already been triggered and alerted the police. Willis was attempting to flee the scene when one of the officers fired a warning shot. The bullet struck Willis and killed him, and in his pants pocket was, yep, you guessed right, the Destiny Ring. The ring was placed back into Del Cassiano's home safe. The Destiny Ring is to be featured in an upcoming tribute film. Film director Edward Small asked Del Cassiano if he could use the ring in an upcoming movie about Valentino. Del, of course, said yes. Edward asked up-and-coming actor Jack Dunn to wear the ring to portray Valentino. And yeah, y'all are catching wind of this. The ring's gonna take another victim. John, or as he was better known, Jack Edward Powell Dunn, was born in Royal Tunbridge Wells in Kent, England, on March 28th in 1917. He was a figure skater who had competed in various championships during the 1930s, and in 1936, the Winter Olympic Games. He traveled with Norwegian skater Sonja Hine to the United States in 1936, and Sonja and Jack were skating partners and on-again, off-again lovers. He parted ways with Sonja sometime around 1937 or 38. My sources weren't very specific, so it's a year span. Anyway, Jack had been hoping to make his way into acting. He was similar in appearance to Rudolph Valentino, and he began working with Edward Small to play the leading role in a movie to be based on Valentino's life. On the day he was to start filming, he became very ill with tularemia, which is a rare bacterial disease spread by rabbits. And Jack Dunn passed away on 1915 and 1938 at only 21 years old. After Dunn's death, the ring was returned to Del Cassiano, and he placed it in a locked trunk where it stayed until his death. After Del died, some of the valuables from his estate were moved to a bank vault. If sources are to believe, the bank had multiple robberies and a fire that might be tied to the presence of the ring. There is also some debate about whether the ring has been stolen or might be in someone's private collection. I don't know. I wasn't able to verify the ring's current location or its ownership. So, I don't know. I don't think I'd want that ring. You know, even if the curse isn't real, it just seems to have a string of bad luck attached to it. I'll put it that way. But let's move on. There are hauntings and other Valentino lore. This is some of the stuff I like. Valentino was buried in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, in a crypt that was donated by his old friend, Jane Mathis. His ghost is reported to be searching for the Destiny Ring. People have claimed to see Valentino's ghost pace the grounds, also at restaurants and even at Paramount Studios where he searches for the Destiny Ring. Remember Valentino's dog, Kabar, the Doberman? People claim to have seen him wandering around the LA Pet Cemetery searching for his beloved master. It turns out it was a publicity stunt. This one kind of grates my nerves, y'all. But this next part is interesting, if nothing else. It's said that every year, on either the anniversary of Valentino's death or Valentine's Day, a lady in black, shrouded by a veil, goes to his tomb and leaves a single red rose. Some people believe the identity of the mysterious woman to be Dietra Flame. Dietra said Valentino once visited her in the hospital when she was only 14 and very ill, and Valentino gifted her a single red rose. So Dietra visited Valentino's tomb every year for 30 years, and she passed away in 1996. What a heartwarming story, if only it were true. Decades later, it was acknowledged to be a publicity stunt. Strangely enough, the stunt grew into a tradition that has continued to this day. Many of Valentino's fans continue to make this pilgrimage, though they don't only leave a red rose, but sometimes cards or other gifts. I wanted to show that Valentino had issues before the ring as well as after. And his life wasn't all peaches and cream, not even after he achieved his dream of stardom. He was prone to scandal and didn't have the best love life, despite being known as the Latin lover. One of his quotes, I think, illustrates this well, and he said, "The women I love don't love me, and the others don't matter." With all the curious deaths that happened, and the Destiny ring gaining its own notoriety, I'm still on the fence about whether or not it's cursed. If all the deaths were similar in nature, then maybe it would be more believable. But at the same time, if you look at the two deaths from strange illnesses-ish, Valentino's technically, but no, to develop everything he did so quickly from a routine surgery, that's why I think this one's an ish part. 2 people dying from freaky gunshot wounds? Come on now. And those were pretty strange. I mean, they were both killed by ricochets, of all things. It's not like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's just weird coincidences that makes me kind of hesitant to say it's not cursed. And then part of me wonders maybe it is cursed and that's why all the bad luck. I just don't know. But there's just too many coincidences for me to get off the fence, and I think it's possible that this ring could be cursed. But what about you? What do you think? Is it cursed? Would you want to own it? I have more questions than answers from some of my research. I'm extremely skeptical of hauntings, and finding out that the lady in black was a publicity stunt, by Paramount, it leaves me a bit cynical. Granted, it was a committed stunt, and it lasted 30 years. I just don't know. Have any of you visited the Hollywood Forever Cemetery or Valentino's graves? His grave, he only has one, sorry. If so, I would love to hear about it. Did you perhaps visit any, take pictures or see something strange or unusual? If so, I would love to hear your thoughts and or your comments. And you can do that on our website, our social media pages. We are found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, now X, at Grimming It Up, all squished together. We also have our podcast, which you're listening to, and we can be found on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play as Grimming It Up. If you like what we're doing, please help us out and to grow by liking and sharing with your friends and family. We greatly appreciate it. I also want to thank you for spending time with me today. And I hope you found today's, and I hope you'll come back again soon. Lastly, I would like to thank my editor who helped me with reviewing my blog post. Her name is Donna Marie West, and she can be found on Facebook. She is super awesome and easy to work with. I highly recommend her, y'all. Again, thanks for spending time with me today. I really appreciated you stopping by and hope to see you again soon. Until then, stay weird and stay spooky. Bye now.